Hey, what's up, you guys? Uh, in a previous video, I don't remember which one, I said I was gonna talk about mental health on Mental Health Awareness Month, which it is this month, May. Um, and the reason I want to talk about it, I was gonna put something in the background. The reason I want to talk about it is because I personally uh, go through it too, mental health. A couple years back, who do I want? Who am I thinking about right now? Yeah, a couple years back, I was in college and I was struggling. The first year was alright, but the second year was killer. And, I just need to take the edge off, so I started doing drugs, which I've never done before. I was 19 years old, I've never done drugs. And it triggered, it was like a catalyst, that started to unravel underneath the surface that I was actually suffering through mental health. I was diagnosed sometime after that with major depression with schizophrenia. And the thing I learned about them is with schizophrenic behavior, um, it could happen in childhood, or it could happen early in your life, and it makes you think differently from what I've seen. Um, it it chops away pathways in your thinking, like how you think. So you're not thinking normally. You're thinking abnormally. You're not the same as everybody. And smoking weed at a later point in life can actually cause it to really show, and it did for me. It really started showing after I started doing drugs, smoking weed specifically. I remember the first time I got high, I was paranoid. It was cool at first, but after a while, when I started wearing down, I was like delusional. At first, I thought it was just the weed. It was actually my brain. And then on top of that, with depression, that alters your brain too. People who have depression have different shaped brains than like someone who doesn't, a normal brain. So that's two times on me. The more I go through life, the more I realize that I'm not trying to say I'm special or whatever, but I do think differently. It's hard for me to engage in conversation with people, even at the basic level. Just, do I want to use this right now? Yeah, because she won't be able to use it. Just, I don't know. I was just really going through it. I'm not gonna share what my thoughts were. It's a little personal, and it's insanity. Like, it really is insane what I was going through, but it started affecting how I treated my family. Because I was super paranoid. I didn't trust anybody. So I went to a mental health facility. They diagnosed me and they put me on prescription. But for like the first 2 years, I didn't quit weed after that. I was smoking weed and on my prescriptions, and I wasn't smart. It took some time before I finally just quit and just started using my prescription only. And that has been a huge, huge turning point. I don't smoke weed anymore. I don't do any drugs besides beer. And even then, it's only 4 times a month. I only drink 4 cans a month. I limit myself. but I don't smoke weed or anything like that. The only drugs I do is my prescription, and it's really helped me because it deals with the psychotic symptoms. I think it's a type when I'm on. It's a second generation or something like that. It's not. It's a antipsychotic. And it's great. You know, I realize now that I was really falling out of it, but it didn't feel like it at the time. You know, what I now see as paranoia, just craziness, it was normal to me at the time. You know, I thought everybody else was crazy and that I was the normal one, but that wasn't the case. It was far from it. So you know, if you're going through it, seek help and stay on prescription, because you know I've heard a lot of stories of people who are crazy. They get the prescriptions, but they mix it like I used to with drugs and alcohol, or they don't take the prescription as prescribed. You know, for me, my medication it's once a day before sleep, and that's how I use it. But other people, you know, they don't take it as prescribed, and it hurts. You know, like it's not the way to do it. You have to stay on track. You know, you can't mix it with anything. I'm only on one prescription right now. I hope it stays that way. I don't like taking the pills. Well, I kind of do, because it helps keep me from falling back into the insanity. But don't mix it, guys. And another thing that it's not like mental health. It's but it does deal with the mentality. Yeah, for the most of my life I was Christian, but I didn't really start reading the Bible until a few years ago. You know, I was actually reading it, and the more I read, the less I believed, because it's so backwards. It really is crazy to read. You know, the Bible is one of the most insane books I have ever read, and I started watching atheist videos because I wasn't believing as much. And I forgot who. I think it was Aaron Raw. He's on YouTube. He said it best when he said it. You know, it's like a form of abuse. You know, mental abuse. Because I remember when you know how it says in the scriptures, you know, whatever you want, pray for it and then truly believe and it'll be yours. But for me personally, like, none of my prayers got answered, like none of them. And the few that did, it would blow up in my face. You know, like a monkey's paw. And that's not why I didn't believe. It's just so hard to believe. The more educated you get, you know. You know, the more you learn about it, like how it's not like explicitly the word of God, it was written down by men. And how it's just stuff I used to believe. I look back now, I'm just like, what was I thinking? You know, miracles, like bringing back the dead and all that. It's really hard to believe, and yet a lot of people do. I used to have hope. I used to have faith. But now that I'm an atheist now, it only happened like a month ago. You know, now I don't believe. I actually feel better. You know, I don't wonder why Like when something bad happens, I don't wonder why. Like, oh, what did I do to deserve this? It's just, oh, it's like it happens. Stuff just happens. There's a number of different factors that go into it. That's all I really wanted to talk about. Just mental health awareness. How are you guys doing? You know, you guys okay? You guys not thinking weird thoughts? Thinking people are out to get you? Because I used to think people out to get me. And the thing was, it really seemed like it. Because where I was living, I would go out for walks to go buy snacks or drawing papers. Because I like to doodle. And it seemed like people were following me. And for a moment they were, like they really were. I don't want to get into specifics because it's just seen the same face wherever you go, the same people following you. But that hasn't happened in a long time. And another part of my mental condition, I didn't learn what the name was till like this year, but it's broadcasting, which is where you think people can hear your thoughts. Like if people can read your mind, like what you're thinking isn't contained only to you. And there used to be so much weird coincidences. But that I still struggle with that. That's one thing that's not going away. It's not as bad as it used to be. I used to be crazy. I was like a couple steps away from being the crazy guy on the street, yelling weird stuff that doesn't make sense. Low key, that's who I wanted to bring for the disabled, but Infinity wouldn't match up. Anyways, like I was so close to the edge. It only took a special moment in my life to realize that I need help. So if you feel like you need help, there's resources out there. I think there's a hotline. I think it's 511. I could be wrong. Don't dial it based off what I tell you. But I think that's like the suicide prevention. If you're really going through it, seek help. If you're making loved ones cry, if you're thinking abnormally, paranoid, think the world is out to get you, the world is trying to do something to you, everybody, seek help, get help. Because it's all in your head. But yeah, I still struggle with thought broadcasting. It doesn't really happen when I'm alone. Like right now, I'm alone at my house. I feel comfortable here. I feel like this is my spot, here to relax. It's usually when I'm at work and the stress is killer. And the stress is getting to me that I feel a certain way. I really need Godseeker not to die. Okay, she's still revived. That's good. Yeah, last time I did this run with the current rotation with the Chimera turning blue, I failed like around this time. Like my whole team died. But the thought broadcasting is crazy. Like I'll be talking with someone and I think to myself, are they about to say this? Are they about to say that? And they do. Or like predicting what people are gonna do, how they're gonna move, what they're gonna say. I don't know if it's just because people are predictable to me, or just in general, or if, well, they can't hear my thoughts. I have to remind myself almost every day at my work, I'm I'm going through it. I'm not thinking right. No one can hear my thoughts. That's just crazy talk. And it is. I told my doctor that, and he's the one that told me what thought broadcasting is. That's how I learned about it. There's all sorts of crazy stuff. I remember in high school, I was reading, I forgot what book, but for English, and it mentioned a mental disorder, saying, I forgot what the name was. This was like over a decade ago. But basically, I think somebody asked, if it wasn't me, it was somebody else that asked, what is it? And my teacher said, she said, it's where people, they thought they were made out of glass, so they were afraid to move, because if they moved, they would break. And I don't think anybody thinks like that anymore. But it was like common in like medieval ages in Europe. It was a common mental health. I don't know if it's a disease or what, but it was common. Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad to be living now in the current times I am, where I could get help, get medication, so that I'm not thinking unclearly, if that's even a word, so that I'm thinking straight. I have my life in order, I didn't lose my family, I didn't lose any friends, I'm not on the street. And I'm glad for that. I used to live in California, SoCal, and there was a lot of people on the street, yelling obscenities, talking to themselves, or if you approach or you get close to them, like within their proximity, they'll curse you out. It's easy to think like, hey, what's your problem? But they could be going through it. They could have Tourette's or something. I remember there's this story in the city where I used to work with my dad. This lady, it made the news. This lady, she was like beaten and tortured because she was cursing out people. And I guess someone got mad, but they didn't know she had Tourette's. She was just a homeless person yelling craziness. It really is crazy. Yeah. How there's all sorts of certain factors that go into it. My schizophrenia, that was probably there since I was a child. It was bound to happen one way or another, either through smoking weed or turning a certain age, and just the brain can't keep up anymore and it falls apart. But kind of reminds me of the Utopia experiments. It's basically where scientists, they put a bunch of rats in an area, like confined area, like a city of rats, and they gave them enough food, enough water, and enough space for them to be happy. But after a short while, they weren't, like, it wasn't ideal. Like, you think they would have everything, that they would be living free, happy, doing the normal things, but the dominant male rats would kick the non-dominant male rats out of their space, and a lot of the beta rats became homosexuals, and their living condition was terrible. Like, forgot exactly what happened, but like the females, they weren't like really taking care of their children. There was a lot of neglect. Um, you know, food wasn't being distributed evenly. I think a lot of it was being hogged. It was just it drew a lot of parallels to living in like a city, a big city. It's just crazy. You'd think we live on a planet that has all the resources needed for life, because as far as we know currently, there's no alien life, at least not nothing like us. It'd probably be like bacteria or something. But there's enough to go around. The U.S. alone dumps more enough food to feed the world. That's just going in the garbage. But those experiments show like would it really work out? Because this isn't anything new. People have been terrible to each other for thousands of years, hoarding resources, allowing poverty, illiteracy for thousands of years. You know, he still got it. It's just like we live in what could have been a utopia, but how we built it, it's anything but. And a lot of us are suffering, and everybody suffers. It doesn't matter who you are. Everybody goes through it. It's mandatory. You know, it doesn't matter how rich, how poor, how happy, how sad. Everybody gets their trials in life, and we could have built utopia for ourselves early on, but that's not how it played out. And if I kind of wonder, like, if we had tried, like, with the rat experiments, would we have ended up like that? Like, it's like that one saying, life could be worse. Something I wonder about from time to time, like, would life really be better if such things didn't exist, if such things didn't happen in the past? Or is this really the best outcome for us? Mental health is big. You have to take care of your brain. The one side effect about my pills, though, I'm on olanzapine. It makes me hungry a lot. Like, I wasn't exactly in shape before, but I've gained a lot of weight. I'm starting to lose it, starting to watch what I eat, try to be a little more fit. But I do have a big old belly. Yeah, and it's in part because of the medication. Oops, I should save that for the next one. It's in part because of the medication, like, but I would rather be a little fat than a lot of crazy. I'd rather be fat than insane. Because the fat is manageable. If I eat right, if I exercise and all that, I can manage the weight. Yeah, let me know if you guys are going through mental health. You guys are going through it. It does get better when you stick to a program, take meds as they are. Don't mix it with alcohol or drugs. Take it as you should be, not like whenever you feel like it. Yeah, that's all I really want to talk about. I guess we'll just I'll just finish this attempt, and then that'll be the end of the video. But yeah, you guys, I'm not trying to tell you what to do here. You know, if you choose to believe, you choose to believe. But if you really want to improve your mental health too, go do research on your religion if you have one. And try to see if it really is real. For me, I was a Christian. I used to believe in God. Now I don't. And it actually has improved my life. You know, I'm no longer thinking I deserve this or I deserve that, or what I asked for wasn't righteous, or feeling guilty over little things. You know, I recommend it. Plus, you're just free. It helps you realize that life is short and precious. It might be meaningless, but that doesn't mean it's not beautiful. Because as far as we know, we're only going to go through it once. You're only alive once, and your life is by chance. You're just the sperm that fertilized egg cell that didn't get flushed out. And you're alive. Ah, dang. And yeah, life, it could always be better. But at the same time, it could be like infinitely worse. You know? It could always be worse. And you're alive. And eventually you're gonna die. But not only you, your loved ones, everybody you care about, everybody dies. Everything dies. Even the universe. The universe isn't gonna last forever as the way it is now. You know, eventually the sun's gonna explode, wiping out our existence, unless we manage to colonize more planets. But eventually the planets will run out, the stars will burn up, even black holes will dissipate. That's what makes it beautiful. I think it's meaningless. I think life is meaningless. But that doesn't mean it's not worthwhile. You know, you're alive. Alright, you guys, I'll see you later. Have a good one. Take care. Get help. And stay safe.